Today's lesson is on dividing fractions. So we're going to work on dividing a fraction, whole number, or mixed number by a fraction or a mixed number, which matches our standard 6NS1. I can interpret and compute quotients of fractions and solve word problems involving division of fractions by fractions. So we do have some rules for dividing fractions. If we follow these rules, we will be successful in our division. And those rules are to keep the first number the same. So whatever that first number is in the division sentence, we're going to keep that as it is. Then we're going to change our division to multiplication. And then we're going to use the reciprocal of the second number. So if you can remember three little words, keep, times, turn, that'll help you remember those three steps. Keep, as in keep the first number the same. Times, because that's a term we use when we're multiplying. And turn, because reciprocal, you're essentially turning the fraction upside down. So we have some children who shared 4 granola bars. Each child had 2/3 of a bar. How many children were there? So we're taking those 4 granola bars and we're breaking them down into smaller pieces. And anytime we have an item that we break down into smaller pieces, that tells us that we're going to divide. So our initial division sentence would be 4 divided by 2/3. So when we do our division involving fractions, we keep the first number the same. And since it's 4, we're going to keep it as a 4. But we are going to make one slight adjustment to it. We're going to turn that into a fraction by making it 4/1. Then our division becomes multiplication. So our division sign becomes multiplication. And then we're going to use the reciprocal of the 2/3, which is 3/2. And you can see that essentially my numerator and denominator just traded places there. Just like when multiplying fractions, at this point you can look to simplify, and you can simplify as long as you have a numerator with a denominator. So the 2 and the 4, we can divide both those by 2. 2 becomes 1, 4 becomes 2. We multiply those together. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 6/1 is 6. So 4 divided by 2/3 would end up with an answer of 6. For number 2, what is 5 divided by 2/3? Well, again, we're going to keep the first number the same, so we're going to make that 5/1. We're going to change division to multiplication, and we're going to use the reciprocal of 2/3, which is once again 3/2. There's no simplifying that we can do here. So 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 1 is 2. When we don't leave our answers as improper fractions, we will convert those into mixed numbers. 2 goes into 5 7 times. 7 times 2 is 14. 15 minus 14 is 1. So we would get 7 1/2. We're taking 4 divided by 4/7. So that's going to be 4/1 times 7/4. The 4's would cancel each other out. So we're left with 7/1, which is 7. 7 divided by 3/4, so we keep the 7, change division to multiplication, use the reciprocal of 3/4, which is 4/3. 7 times 4 is 28. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 goes into 28 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. 28 minus 27 is 1. So we would have 9 1/3. 10 divided by 5/6. Keep, times, turn. 5 becomes 1. 10 becomes 2 because we're dividing both of those by 5. That gives us 12/1, which is 12. For number 4, keep, times, turn. 2 becomes 1. 6 becomes 3 because we divide both of those by 2. We get 21/1, which is 21. Excuse me. Keep, times, turn. We can divide both 3 and 9 by 3. Gives us 24/1. which is 24. And then for number 6, keep times turn, 2 becomes 1, 10 becomes 5, we get 45 over 1, which is 45. Kind of ran out of room there a little bit. Okay. So for those examples, we had a whole number as our first number, and now we're going to have fractions as our first number, but nothing changes. We still keep the first number the same, we still change division and multiplication, and we still use the reciprocal. So if VJ had 2/3 of a pizza, he cut it into equal slices. Each slice was 1/6 of the whole pizza. How many equal slices did VJ cut? Okay, well, once again, we're taking a large item, breaking down to smaller pieces, so that tells us we're going to divide. So we have 2/3 divided by 1/6. So we keep the 2/3, we change division to multiplication, and we use the reciprocal of 1/6, which is 6 over 1. Now we don't necessarily have to simplify at this stage. We can do our multiplication. So 6 times 2 is 12, and 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. Excuse me. So we can wait until the end to simplify if we want to. We don't have to simplify at the multiplication stage, although there are many times when it is beneficial to simplify early because you do tend to work with smaller numbers then. So number 2, we want to figure out how many quarters there are in 5/8, which means we're going to start with the 5/8. We're going to divide that by 1/4. So once again, we keep times turn. 4 becomes 1. 8 becomes 2 because we're dividing both of those by 4. And remember, you have to use a numerator with a denominator. So that would be 5 over 2, which is 2 1/2. So Jack's neighbor gave him 1/3 of a pie. Jack cut the pie into small slices. Each slice is 1/6 of the original pie. How many small slices? Well, we start with 1/3 of a pie. We're cutting it into 6ths. Keep times turn. We get 6 over 3, which is 2. How many thirds are in 1/2? We start with 1/2. We divide it into thirds. Keep times turn. We get 3 over 2, which is 1 1/2. Keep times turn. 9 becomes 3. 3 becomes 1 because we're dividing both of those by 3. We get 6 over 1, which is 6. Keep times turn. 4 becomes 1. 12 becomes 3 because we're dividing both of those by 4. We get 9 over 1, which is 9. Keep times turn. 4 times 7 is 28. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 goes into 28 3 times. 3 times 9 is 27. 28 minus 27 is 1. So we get 3 1/9. Keep times turn. 6 times 5 is 30. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 goes into 30 4 times. 7 times 4 is 28. 30 minus 28 is 2. So we get 4 2/7. Okay. Alexa had 3/4 of a waffle. She cut it into equal pieces. Each piece was 3/8 of the waffle. How many equal pieces did Alexa cut? So just like our previous questions, we start with 3/8, or 3/4 rather. We're dividing it into 3/8. Excuse me. Keep. Times. Turn. 3's cancel each other out. Divide both 4 and 8 by 4. We're left with 2 over 1, which is 2. How many 2/7 are in 5/7? Well, we start with 5/7 divided by 2/7. Keep. Times. Turn. 7's cancel each other out. So we're left with 5 over 2, which is 2 and 1/2. David had 8/9 of a fruit tart and some plates. He put 2/9 of the fruit tart on each plate. How many plates did he have? So we start with 8/9. We're dividing it into 2/9. Keep. Times. Turn. 9's cancel each other out, so we could also make it 8 over 2. Anyway, we do it though, we should get a final answer of 4. 7/9 divided by 2/3. Keep. Times. Turn. 3 becomes 1. 9 becomes 3 because we divide both of those by 3. We get 7 over 6, which is 1 and 1/6. And our final examples for today, we have 9/10 divided by 3/10. Keep. Times. Turn. 10's cancel out. 3 becomes 1. 9 becomes 3 because we divide both of those by 3. We get 3 over 1, which is 3. Excuse me. Keep. Times. Turn. 3's cancel out. 5 becomes 1. 10 becomes 2 because we're dividing both those by 5. We get 2 over 1, which is 2. Keep. Times. Turn. 8 becomes 4. 6 becomes 3 because we're dividing both of those by 2. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 5 is 20. Keep. Times. Turn. 6 becomes 3. 8 becomes 4 because we divide both of those by 2. And you get 20 21sts. Our final two examples here. Keep. Times. Turn. 12 becomes 6. 10 becomes 5 because we divide both those by 2. 7 times 6 is 42. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 goes into 42 once. 42 minus 25 is 17. So you get 1 and 17 25ths. And finally, keep. Times. Turn. Divide 9 by 3 to get 3. Divide 12 by 3 to get 4. 8 times 4 is 32. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 goes into 32 twice. 2 times 15 is 30. 32 minus 30 is 2. So your answer would be 2 and 2/15. And that is today's lesson on dividing fractions. I hope this helps.